Glad to meet you, I said. Then, trying to hide my nervousness, I added, How are you? I'm fine. The question is, how are you? What do you mean? I asked. Something must be eating you, he said, proud the way foreigners are when they have mastered a bit of American slang. You should be able to qualify with your eyes closed. Believe me, I know it, I told him, and it felt good to say that to someone. Well, here, children, the conversation that takes place reveals the friendly, the motivating, the comfort as a sportsman that Luz is trying to provide Owens. It seemed that Luz was able to understand the discomfort, the anger that Owens was feeling. So, to make him comfortable and to make him bring out his potential without being worried and making him at ease, he is trying to put forward this conversation with him. Besides, one another aspect of Owens that we come to know of his character is, although he is very angry, although he has developed that hatred and prejudice and dislike for this German athlete Lislam, but still, but at the same time, he answers him. He goes into a conversation with him. It's not that he does not reply or he shows his anger in his words or his conversation. So he's actually very receptible. He is able to accept the things, and now further also you will see that he will accept his advice and follow it. So both of them reveal sportsmanship there. So when he says that he was glad to meet, he was trying to hide his nervousness, and just in a formal way he asks, How are you? But what Luz meant was something else. He wanted to know what was wrong with him. So he puts that how are you in a very affirmed way. And he says, the question is, how are you? Means what is wrong with you? Now this makes him realize that there was more to the conversation. And that is why he says, What do you mean? Then, as all the foreigners, when they have mastered a bit of the language, so they start using idioms and phrases. So, in the same way, he asks, Something must be eating you. Means something must be worrying you. Something that is putting him to discomfort. Then he further says, why I'm saying that something must be worrying you, because you are so capable, you have such potential with you that you should be able to qualify with your eyes closed. With your eyes closed means in a very easy manner. Just like that we had used, no, hands down. People had expected that he would win Olympics, hands down. The same way that expression has been used here also in the similar manner, that you should be able to qualify with your eyes closed. See, imagine so much, even his this German Luslong, he was very good at his jumps, but look at the respect that he has, look at the expectation that he has from Owens. He says that he had expected that for him qualifying was just like doing it eyes closed. in a way, it was not mocking children. Don't take it as a mocking in any way, but it was a way to encourage someone. And if you talk like this to someone, you're motivating. You're putting that person to a very comfort level. So this is what this conversation and these words especially, that you should be able to qualify with your eyes closed. This was a motivating factor for Owens. Then he also puts in, he feels motivated, and he says, believe me, I know it. And it felt good saying that to someone. For the next few minutes, we talked together. I didn't tell long what was eating me, but he seemed to understand my anger, and he took pains to reassure me. Although he'd been schooled in the Nazi youth movement, he did not believe in the Aryan supremacy business any more than I did. We laughed over the fact that he really looked the part though. An inch taller than I, he had a lean, muscular frame, clear blue eyes, blonde hair, and a strikingly handsome, chiseled face. Finally, seeing that I had calmed down somewhat, he pointed to the takeoff board. Now, in this, you can very well understand that the things were at a very conversation, and the closeness has set in. They talked for a few minutes, and in that talk that they had, Owens did not tell Long that what was worrying him. It was not that he could say that he was nervous that he was there and he was doing so well, and at the same time the Aryan supremacy theory that was being talked about, that he was hearing there, so that was worrying him, that has started affecting him. So but he did not reveal that to Long, but it seemed, because they had a conversation, they were into a conversation, so he could understand that the anger was understood. Why he was angry was understood by Luslong. And as a true sportsman, he did not leave him to himself, but he took pains. He made efforts. He took pains to reassure me. Reassure me means to make me confident, to make me come out of that condition. Although he had, that is Luslong, had been schooled, had been trained in the Nazi youth movement, where people were trained to believe that the Nazi were the supreme, they were the superior class. So, but while he was talking, he could make out that although he had been trained at the Nazi youth movement, he did not believe in the Aryan supremacy business just as he did. Means his level to not believing the Aryan supremacy business was exactly the same as he had. See now, the comfort zone was becoming good. Although Luslong had easily qualified for the finals in his first attempt, but he was not arrogant. He was friendly, he was humble, and motivating towards Owens. Owens did not tell Long what was eating or troubling him, but it seemed he understood his anger, and he made sure that Owens was comfortable with him. Luz, being trained and schooled in the Nazi youth movement, did not make him believe the Aryan supremacy business, just like he did not believe, Owens did not believe. The cordial talk initiated by Luz made him laugh over the fact. See, they were so comfortable that they could laugh also over the fact that he really looked the part. The part of it means he really looked superior as such. The part of it that Aryans were the superior class, he really looked the part of it. That is, mean his physical features made him superior. Like he was an inch taller than Owens. He had a thin muscular frame, clear blue eyes, blonde hair, and a very attractive and nicely cut face. Chiseled means nicely cut face. Finally, when Liz realized that Owens had calmed down, he pointed to the takeoff board. He pointed to the takeoff board and advised him. Now, further, he advised him. So now, see, when the things were, he could understand when he has to talk what. So if he had started to point out at the takeoff board and in the beginning only he had advised him, the things would not have been taken up. So first he took him into that comfort zone, made him calm down, and then he pointed to the takeoff board. Look, he said, why don't you draw a line a few inches in back of the board and aim at making your takeoff from there? You'll be sure not to foul. And you certainly ought to jump far enough to qualify. What does it matter if you are not first in the trials? Tomorrow is what counts. Now, Luz advised him to draw a line. You can see in the picture also. Luz advised him to draw a line a few inches in back of the board and aim at making his takeoff from there. See, he was fouling. He was, that white line that you see, his foot came beyond that while jumping. So that was the foul that he was making. So what he did, he said, it was just 1 foot. Before that, he drew a line and he said that you jump from here so that that foul that he was making wouldn't be there. So he gave Owens lifelong lesson, and at the same time he gave Owens lifelong lesson that what counts, tomorrow is what counts. He told him he should aim at not making a foul and getting disqualified, because what matters at the qualifying round is not the position but simply qualifying for the finals. So it did not matter here. First he needs to qualify, and it would be next day at the finals that his jump would matter, as that would decide his position. Here he simply should concentrate on qualifying. Suddenly, all the tension seemed to ebb out of my body as the truth of what he said hit me. Confidently, I drew a line a full foot in back of the board and proceeded to jump from there. I qualified with almost a foot to spare. So suddenly all the tension receded. Receded, see the word that has been used, the word about. Just as waves come, they touch the shore and recede and go back, the same way, in the same manner, his tension also receded, they went back. He drew a line confidently. The line drawn was full 1 foot away from the jump line. This way he did not foul, and his jump was in fact so good that he still had 1 foot advantage from the final point, from the minimum qualifying line. He was able to qualify well into the finals. And if it were not for Luz's motivation and advice, Owens would have cut a sorry figure and would have had to go back without participating. See how, like a true sportsman, Luz had supported him. If he were not a true sportsman, he would have let go. Why should it bother what he does, or whether he is qualified, or whether he qualifies or he doesn't? But he wanted a good competition, and that is what is the spirit of games. You should have a good competition so that you bring out the best in yourself. That night, I walked over to Luslong's room in the Olympic Village to thank him. I knew that if it hadn't been for him, I probably wouldn't be jumping in the finals the following day. We sat in his quarters and talked for 2 hours about track and field, ourselves, the world situation, a dozen other things. So that night, Jesse had to thank, because it was because of him that he was able to qualify. That night, Jesse walked over to Luslong's room, quarter here, Luslong's room in the Olympic Village. Now, what is this Olympic Village? See, children, when Olympic Games are held, naturally the hotels and all won't be sufficient for that particular city, so they create a small city close to the stadiums, and that is those like multi-storied buildings and those houses that are built especially for these to accommodate these sports people and other officials. That is termed as Olympic Village. It's like a new city that has to be established. So he went to Luslu to thank him. I knew that if it had not been him, it hadn't been for him, I would probably wouldn't be jumping in the finals the next day, the following day. So they sat together. Quarters means a small room, a small apartment, and talked for a few hours. And what did they talk about? About track and field, about themselves, about the world situation. Now, the world situation was also a bit tensed at that time. A dozen other things, and so many other things. When I finally got up to leave, we both knew that a real friendship had been formed. Luz would go out to the field the next day trying to beat me if he could. But I knew that he wanted me to do my best, even if that meant my winning. It is then, when they got up to leave, both of them realized, it is then they realized that a real friendship had been formed. Friendship that was away from any prejudice, any malice, or any political or country bearing them. So had formed between them. What was important for Liz was fair play. See, like a sportsman, he believed in fair play and the love of games and the love of games. That is why he loved games. He wanted a fair play. That is why he helped him. He advised him sincerely and made him qualify, helped him to qualify. And hence he wanted Owens to do his best, even if that meant his own defeat. Well, you can see Owens is standing there. He got the first place, with Liz in the second place. This is a historic picture, children. As it turned out, Liz broke his own past record. In doing so, he pushed me onto a peak performance. I remember that at the instant I landed from my final jump, the one which set the Olympic record of 26 feet 5 5/16 inches. He was at my side, congratulating me, despite the fact that Hitler glared at us from the stands not 100 yards away. Luz shook my hand hard, and it wasn't a fake smile with a broken heart sort of grip either. So in the finals, Luz broke his own past record. It's not that Luz did not try. He wanted to win, but he wanted a fair play. So he broke his own past record that he had made. And in doing so, what? He made Jesse perform better. It was the peak performance of Jesse. In doing so, he pushed Jesse on the peak performance. Jesse won the gold medal, and Jesse did. Jesse won the gold medal and made an Olympic record of 26 feet 5/16 inches. Liz Long was the first person who congratulated Jesse, despite the fact that Hitler stared hard at them from the stands that was less than 100 yards away. So you could make out the hard stare at Liz Long and Owens. Less than 100 yards away, Liz shook Jesse's hand hard, and the smile on his face was a genuine smile. You can melt down all the gold medals and cups I have, and they couldn't be a plating on the 24-carat friendship I felt for Liz Long at that moment. I realized then, too, that Liz was the epitome of what Perry Coubertin, founder of the modern Olympic Games, must have had in mind when he said, "The important thing in the Olympic Games is not winning but taking part. The important thing in the Olympic Games is not winning but taking part. The essential thing in life is not conquering but fighting well." So at that moment, Jesse felt that if he could melt down all the gold medals and cups he had, they could not be a plating. They could not be sufficient to plating on the 24-carat friendship he had with Liz. So the 24-carat friendship that he had developed with Liz. So all that gold medals and the cups that he had earned, if one could melt it also, that the whole thing would not be sufficient enough to act as a plating on the 24-carat. 24-carat signifies the true and pure friendship Owens felt for Liz, which was free, and this friendship was free of the traces of any anger, any hatred or malice. So Jesse realized then that Liz was the epitome means a perfect example of Perry de Coubertin, who was the founder of the modern Olympic Games. So when he established this Olympic Games, surely he must have had in his mind when he expressed this line. So here, what was the line that he had said? The important thing in the Olympic Games is not winning, but taking part. The essential thing in life is not conquering, but fighting well. So he says that, and of course, this Jesse and Owens, Jesse and Liz, they had proved that this line. The important thing in Olympic Games is not winning. It's not about winning, but taking part. And this fact, the line that he has expressed, Perry de Coubertin, in fact, this is the essence of Olympic Games. It's the essence of Olympic Games. and speaks of the universality of the sportsmanship feeling. In fact, this is all about how one should feel when one is participating in such games, Olympic Games. Because participating in itself, taking part is in itself is an important thing. So it's, and what does Olympic Games teach? And teach, it teaches that it's not about that winning thing, but it's the taking part, participating in it. So he says about the life also, in life also, it's not about essential thing in life, it's not about conquering things and every time being victorious about, but fighting well.